Hey, Gina. There you are.
Oh, where are you?
I'm in Florida this week. Um, yeah, bouncing around. Where's Waldo? I'm on my way to Asheville next week for the next couple of months. So
That is a wonderful place. It is a
for
great
sure,
place.
amazing water there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I went there in October and just had such an amazing experiences drinking the water and feeling connected, and can't wait to do some spring water harvesting. Get on findaspring.com and go into the woods. It's gonna be good.
Oh man, kiss it for me, would you? Because I'm I'm stuck in California and it isn't the same. It's all ocean water here. But yes, bless those springs. Wonderful.
Right, we are at the top of the hour. So I'm going to mute myself and you all can take it away. If everybody, as you have questions, please feel free to put them in the Q&A. Eric and Nafisa will continue to remind people of that, but feel free to put comments in the chat, share where you're coming in from, say hi, tell us how much you love water, and take it away.
Yeah, and please remember to put the questions in the Q&A. That way, even if we don't get to them all, you'll get an answer.
Yeah. So welcome, everybody. We're just so excited to have this webinar on structured water with two very special experts on the subject. I just can't wait to hear from them on details. And it's very pertinent to most of you watching this because most of the people who are in our community suffer from complex chronic illness. So maybe you have that, or maybe a loved one does. And this is a missing link. And we're just really excited to share it with you because we know that it's going to help you recover. So let's start. I'm going to start by introducing Gina. We have Gina Bria. She's a cultural anthropologist. And she researches ritual foods and food strategies. She's been doing this for over 25 years, and she's the founder of the Hydration Foundation. And she convened her first ever TEDx New York Salon event on structured water and her own TEDx talk, How to Grow Water. It's not only blue, it's green. And she talks about identifying plants in hydration strategies around the globe. This is super exciting because one missing piece that Gina and I just spoke about maybe an hour ago, very briefly, is about food and water and how that's not really thought about so much. We're going to dive deep into that as well. And then she has research on the primacy of water and accelerating soil recovery. And she's opened new doors in regenerative agriculture for irrigation innovation. So it's really about person to human, person to the earth and back with the flow of water and healing. And then we're so excited to have Patrick Durkin. He is a structured water expert and the founder of the Wellness Enterprise. And his calling is to make plastic water bottles obsolete and has turned it into a life dedicated to creating a world of love and oneness. And when you hear Patrick's story, your heart's just going to burst open. So excited for you all to be a part of this with us today. So thank you.
So I'd love to get going just with one of the, I think, exciting stories is Gina, you told us early, what first got you excited about water and plants?
Well, as an anthropologist, I was looking at desert communities and how they hydrated. I'm like, I don't understand why they don't have liquid, they don't have 8 glasses a day, they should be dead. I don't like, why are they flourishing? And in that context, I discovered that the hydration strategies they were using were water locked in plants. I want you to think cactus or aloe vera or even tubers under the ground are high water, they're nature's water bottles. And to me, this was so profound and such a mental shift coming from, very industrial kind of, higher education setting. And I felt that it was very important that including helping to shift getting water from all our water bottles. And Patrick and I really, we really meet profoundly on that terrible condition that we're in with all these plastic bottles. It has to end. And so finding out that a apple is as hydrating, if not more so than a bottle of water, was a very exciting moment for me. And I thought, okay, let's just go have a great time. Lots of parties, spreading this information to everybody we can. So that's why we're here.
And how did this roll into, meeting Dr. Pollack and beginning to understand the concepts of and the nature of structured?
Yeah. So here I am sitting on this amazing information that they're using plants. And I'm talking about every region, every desert region around the entire globe. So I went to each of those to look at what were the hydration. And every one of those environments, they were using plants, different plants. But every one of these plants had something in common. And it was that the plants that they most returned to were, they had a gel-like consistency inside the plant. So I was trying to figure out what the heck is that gel? Like, is it a polysaccharide? Like, what's the gel? And everybody I asked that had no idea. And so I'm like calling in all my chips, like calling colleagues and whatever. And in this research to try to find out what that gel was, I stumbled on a book called Cells, Gels, and the Meaning of, I think, is it The Meaning of Life? It might be, but it's Dr. Pollack. And he wrote a book. And I thought, okay, this guy is talking about gels. So there's first clue. Second, he's talking about living gels. And that maybe he'll have a clue. So I called him up. Hi, I'm a crazy anthropologist. Would you just spend 20 minutes on the phone with me? What's that gel in all these plants? And he said the most remarkable thing, which is, oh, well, that's just concentrated water. And I'm like, what? What are you telling me that's all water? And these plants have all this water locked in them in this. He said, yeah, but it's in a specialized form. It's in a fourth phase. And that what we need to do when we think about water is get out of the idea that it just comes in liquid form, which is how we typically look for it, vapor or ice. That actually the most prominent form of water on this planet is in this gel-like state. And it isn't just desert plants, but all plants. That was the big aha moment with Dr. Pollack. The two main points that he made is it is water. It's concentrated water. All plants have it. So whether you're talking about a basil leaf or a piece of arugula, or whether you're talking about a tree structure and how trees are all gel inside, they're a bit more fibrous, but it's gel. And we are that same gel-like water-made creature. It's far more prominent than we realize. The water, when we talk about hydration now, isn't talking about how much we guzzle liquid. It's how do we attend and nurture our cells, which are full of this gel-like water. That's how they roll. That's what they're made of. And that final point, hang on, this water conducts electricity. It's a superconductor like you would use in a sonogram. You put the gel on your belly, right? Or wherever you're getting the sonogram. This water conducts electricity so efficiently that it allows cell-to-cell signaling. It allows protein unfolding. It's doing massive amounts of work. It's the active phase, the active biological phase where water does all its work. So that's a lot to unpack.
That is, and I mean, Dr. Pollack is just one of those amazing people who, I always try to explain to patients that, all of our stories about how the body works are just that. They're stories. They're how we put together what we think are scientific facts, but oftentimes they're stories built on stories. And people like Dr. Pollack go back to the basic physics and biochemistry of life. They take another look and they come up with it's still a story, but it's a much more robust one that explains much more of the data. But do you have any of the backstory? I don't want to take too long on this, but I've always on like, what happened? Why has the study of water and even Dr. Pollack's work, even though he's a well-respected, scientist at the University of Seattle, at University of Washington in Seattle, it seems to still be a little marginalized.
Yes, I would say that up till 3 or 4 years ago, it was a dangerous field of investigation. You couldn't get funding. It was too complicated. Too many scientists were taken down over their studies of water. If you're studying water, they're going to put you in the crazy category. You lose your scientific credibility. So a lot of the work on really advancing water came from amateurs who were like, hey, did anybody notice that water gives off electricity? Is anybody paying attention to that? Basic questions, as you're saying, Eric, Dr. Eric, that just this understanding that water was revered, it was understood, and we have all the indigenous traditions who understood that all water, all plants are giving off signals. The indigenous call it their songs, but it's the same set of information transfer that is so powerful. So yes, up until a short while ago, all the great water scientists were marginal in their discipline, but they weren't marginal to each other. And they gather every year for the last 15 years, they've been gathering and exchanging Russian, Korean, Italian, amazing information on water, its ability to carry electrical information, frequencies, and how, so they've all become the leaders instead of the outliers. We're in a new stage.
I think that's just so important because it's been that way in medicine as well, in quote, alternative medicine. It was really marginalized. Now functional medicine is becoming much more popular, and we go way beyond functional medicine. For us, functional medicine is a foundation.
Mm.
But we add on so much more. And I think that adding structured water on goes way beyond that. And so it's like the things that were once marginalized are just starting to become acceptable now. So it's very exciting.
Yeah. And so when you've been watching how people use water, and we're gonna get to Patrick soon about how we can all maybe get more access to it. But you've been looking at how people have been using this, and how are there any interesting things you've seen with how it affects people's cognitive abilities or energy?
That's for Patrick, yes?
Well, it's for both of you, but yeah, you can throw back and forth at it. We can start with Patrick.
Go with Patrick. I want to hear from him.
Yeah.
Well, Gina, we haven't talked in a little bit. So, 52 years old, with having spent 20 years off the tennis court, which is, I mean, seriously, my great love in life is tennis. Like, I will fall asleep thinking about tennis and wake up thinking about it. And I couldn't play for 20 years. And just before I left Texas, I played 14 out of the last 16 days. I was on either a pickleball or tennis court. And so when we talk about energy, like, it's just stunning at 52 to be having a renaissance. And one of the things that I noticed that's like giving me great joy is I do these clinics, and there's usually 10 to 20 other people there, and maybe one other's in their 50s, and most of them are in their 30s and some are in their 20s. I'm like, yeah,
Yes.
that's what I'm talking about. But then there's another part where I guess in some way, at some point in my life, like I had some belief around, like, maybe I'm stupid. Like, what I mean by that is, like, there was a limit to my ability to expand my thinking. Like, I couldn't get out of the topics that I knew, like stock market, sports, beer. That was about it. And I mean, I remember praying that God would give me a life that was more interesting than that. Like, please give me something else that I'm passionate about. And now I'm like so infinitely creative. This road trip that I'm on this time, I realized when I left home that I left the morphic fields or patterns of thought that I have in my home. And I got out where there's so many variables. I mean, I drive, and there are many nights I don't know where I'm sleeping. And I end up connecting with somebody at a home or at a hotel, or whatever happens. And I have a dog, and I have a cooler full of really healthy food, and I have to make all that work. And because there's so many variables, I think I've given up expectations. And so I just go down the road and it's like, whatever happens that's good is like a bonus. So there's creativity nonstop. And I know if I give up my hydration, couple days worth, I start getting cranky and moody and possibilities close. So energy and creativity are just off the charts from my experience.
Wow. And just, and what I'm making me think is, I just want to go back to the basic science a little bit more for our listeners, because I realize that this is something I've been thinking about for a long time. Dr. Pollack's work, I said, has intrigued me for years. I go back, I first heard him talk in the 70s. Then he was talking about the basic science of basically those cells, how our stories of transport can't work. You know, really how water, he took him a long time to realize how important water was in making those transport mechanisms that we kept thinking were pumps all over the body. But anyway, but I just realized for so many people, the concept is new. So can you just give a little more, either one of you, but a little more detail in like, what is the more the chemistry of this, structured or easy water, as Dr. Pollack named it for a while. I agree, structured water is a much better name. But who wants to feel that one? I'll let you take turns.
Patrick, do you want to shoot at that, or?
No,
Yeah, up
that's
to
you,
you, honey.
Gina. You take the first cut at that one.
Okay, I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna do it with my hands. So you'll know, you can see it. So water exists on a spectrum. It's going through vapor, it goes to liquid, then it goes to ice, right? I mean, we all are. That is what we're taught. It turns out that between liquid and ice, there is a very long sequence of water in which the molecules are reassembling themselves and organizing so that they can produce the crystals of ice if it's cold enough. But what we didn't see is all this invisible work that this organized water does, because we didn't really understand it was there. So this part of the spectrum is called structured, ordered, easy, liquid crystalline, plasma, gel. We're getting coherent water. We're getting names for it from all these different disciplines that are suddenly tipping into recognizing, holy cow, water itself has water molecules have a hydrological cycle. They have their own roundabout system in which everything they do, from vapor to liquid to this gel stage structuring to finally ice, is matching the environmental needs that water needs to do. So each of those phases do different kinds of labor for life, whether it's decontamination or releasing aromatic molecules or cleaning up our lymph system or ultimately cleaning up our soils. So we need to know what state of water to match the work we want it to do. And this is why you're having this webinar, calling it the missing link to health, because we're missing water in this organization, these organized molecules in this state, because they're the ones that do all the cell-to-cell signaling. That's when it becomes coherent information. Liquid water does it a little, but this does it super conducting.
And one of you,
So that's why I care about hydration. That's what hydration's for.
Can I jump in here for 1 second? There's a good question that's come in that might be a good one for the team to answer. Jerry Rose says, is it a matter of ingesting or a matter of forming this gel within due to mechanisms of cells or interactions of fats, peptides, whatever that causes water within to gel?
Both, of course, right? The ingestion helps you. So in other words, if you're eating a high plant diet and you're getting structured water from your plants, your body doesn't have to do the work of taking liquid and processing it and organizing it until it gets into this gel-like stage. In the interim, why I spoke about water as a structured spectrum is because this stage of water where it starts to reorganize is a very long-tailed state, and it concentrates the water in as little as 10% more viscous than liquid. So it's only just, that's why we can get it out of our taps if we're using devices to help us change the water in our house to begin that organization process. But then the body take that electrical charge and do with it what it needs to do. And it can grow the density of that water by layering on these layers of hydrophilic hexagonal sheets of structured water in an organized, coherent way, so that now they're building tissue. And they can build it to the density of cartilage, or even now the thinking is bones are a form of structured water. So that's pretty mind-blowing, but yes, we want to ingest it, and we also want to induce environments in our body that allow it to grow as well. For example, exposing it to sunlight and infrared is important. Getting good minerals, important part of growing structured water. That was a lot.
Can one of you tell us about how structured water has an impact on the body at the cellular level, at the lymphatic level, at the detoxification level? That's a loaded question, but I think you can run with it.
Yeah, we'll just go back to this idea that different stages of water do different kinds of labor, right? I think this is an idea people don't have in their mind. But if that's in this ordered state, when molecules work together, so one molecule can't be structured. You have to have a group of, it's almost like quorum sensing, right? When they get into this cohesive state, of course, then they increase the coherency of the signaling, of cell signaling, and they increase the ability of the cell to release toxins and get it into the lymph system. The lymph system then is a more liquid form of water doing different kind of work, right? So the lymph system is about, oh, let's just get this stuff out of here. We need a lot of flow for that. We don't need density, we need flow. So these different kinds of water, and then of course, when you breathe, you're breathing in vapor. That's a whole nother level of water doing specific kinds of work. So it's just helping us understand, holy cow, the way the water molecules organize and get together. I hate the word structuring because nobody knows what that means. They're like, what, are there buildings in there? What's the structure? I just call it coherent, ordered water molecules working together to figure out what they're near and what it needs.
Yeah.
And I'd be happy to jump in here for a second. So, I love the way Gina gets into the cellular science, and I'm a different type of scientist. Like, I'm not an academic scientist. I'm not going to study the way other people are. I'm living my life and looking for inspiration and passion. I think I should be loving and joyful. And I think when I put something into the world, it should reflect back love and joy. So when I wanted to initiate this journey to get rid of plastic bottles, like for real, like I was going to go find the story that when people heard it, they would just drop their plastic water bottle and never use one again. And what it got to, this is my first reusable bottle. It's like 12 years old and I still have it. Like, it started with the reusable bottle, but it wasn't enough. And so then I investigated water filters, and people buy a filter from me and they'd say, I like my water. I was like, that's not enough. And then I learned about structured water, and people would say, I have more energy. My skin feels soft. My hair feels good. I'm more creative. I healed from this, or I healed from that. And, I got all these different experiences. And that's when I heard from people that their lives change remarkably when they drink structured water. And so as a CEO of a company, I think it's pretty rare to still, there were about 5 years I picked up every phone call. And now I still pick up phone calls because I want to stay relevant in the market. And I want to know, what are people saying? And so the amount of praise that comes through our inbox, people just saying, I adopted your product and I love it. It's changed my life, is so high that I know I'm in a business that's making a difference for people. So my science is listening to everyone and bringing that information to all of us in stories like this.
Yeah.
Patrick, I just love your personal story of how you first got into this. Will you share that with everybody, please?
Sure. I mean, it's, we talked a little bit beforehand, and so I'm going to put a little different spin on this than I've ever done before, because you helped me see my life in a different way, and it's cool, right? And what it goes back to is, like, when I was a little kid, my mom used to take me every week to a doctor who put a shot in my arm, right? Who even knows what it was, but it was called allergy shots, right? And it's because I had such bad allergies, I needed to put some kind of chemical into my body. And now here we are, like 40 something years later after those shots, and my family of origin, who are not, you don't get to preach in your own hometown, like you got to go on the road,
Yeah.
right? They're not the structured water fans that I am. And, a bunch of them have allergies, and mine are gone. They're gone. Like, I couldn't be in the same house as a cat before. And now, I hold cats and pet them and play with them and, really enjoy them. So I had this allergy thing going, and I had a bad stomach in my teens, which is, usually pretty healthy years for people. Like, I was on the move and very athletic and still doing fine in the world. But then I married a stressful career in finance with the underlying allergies not having been resolved, the irritation still being there. And you take stress and put it on top of that underlying system, and then some age, and you're going to crumble. And so at 31, I got diagnosed with irritable bowel syndrome. And my doctor, in the session where she diagnosed me, she said, just take this pill every day for the rest of your life and you'll be fine. And my response was, I was shocked that I came out with this. I was like, you're fired. And I got up and walked out. I was like, no way I'm taking a pharmaceutical for the rest of my life. Like, I just knew inside. And I went home and I was like crying. And I was like, okay, like, there's a problem. You got to figure this out. And so I'm a relentless seeker. I need to know the natural answer that's going to explain what I'm dealing with and how do I get to love and joy. Like, there has to be a way. I know it's there. It's my birthright. So I got to get to it. And so,
Yeah.
right?
Yes.
And so it took about 7 years. And, I started with diet, obviously, right? Gluten-free and dairy-free. And it got to the point where, like, for a year, I ate rice and avocado because it was all I could digest. And even that was poorly. So the diet thing got really intense. And then the exercise piece was there, and I was working with that. And then the work stress, and then the marital stress. And it actually turned out that the biggest single step I took in my healing from irritable bowel syndrome was the month that I left my marital home. Like, that stress was just eating me up. And that's around the time, it was a little bit before, I found alkaline water. And alkaline water, if you're just drinking RO, I drank, by the way, the 7 years that I was the sickest in this lifetime, I drank reverse osmosis. I'm not blaming it and calling it the cause. I'm saying that the consciousness that I was chose reverse osmosis while I was sick, right? They were there together. And subsequent explorations of the sterile environment that RO creates has led me to a much deeper perspective that RO is something to get away from. But anyway, continuing on with the journey, the alkaline water helps me balance acidity, which was really great. And I use this concept of like a seesaw. If I was really acidic and I put alkaline on the other side, it brought me up, which was cool. But then I started to think about, if it brought me up, why won't it keep going? And why won't I mess this balance up? And how am I possibly going to get it right? And at the same time that happened, structured water came into my life. And by then I had jumped out of the financial industry. I was all in on getting rid of plastic bottles. And I was like, trying to figure out how to make that work. And I was completely resistant to structured water, completely. Like, people told me about it and I pushed it away. And the reason I pushed it away was completely selfish. How am I going to make a living if I sell a device that when people take it in their life, there's no replacement part, there's no maintenance, and it lasts forever? It's engineered to just last. That's a horrible business to be in. And so there I was, holding the filters I was selling and the alkaline water that I was selling and the structured water that I was selling. And that's when spirit, God, creator, however anybody experiences it, it's all good with me, started to show me lighter energy and heavier energy. And the lighter energy was, if you will trust that you're supposed to go through the structured water door, you will be supported and you will find the love and joy that you want. It's like, okay, that sounds like a tall order, but I'm going. And I continued on with my health journey, not being able to play tennis from 31 until 51. So it was a 20-year period. And I thought it was all the irritable bowel syndrome and then residual from that. But it turned out I've had Lyme for over 10 years, maybe even longer, like undiagnosed. And then a year ago, October, so about 18 months ago, we diagnosed the Lyme. And when I finally got to a functional medicine practitioner, and when we diagnosed the Lyme and started going after that, now I had the stress managed to a good degree. I had the hydration managed, and I was more aligned with my mission and purpose for my life. Like, that's really important piece. Like when the stress is coming from, I got to make money as a financial advisor, versus the stress is coming from, I'm building a business to spread structured water around the world. It's a different type of stress. And so when we figured out the Lyme, of course, without the building block of hydration, I don't think I get the opportunity to do the healing. I know this because literally 3 days off of structured water. I mean, I haven't been 3 days off of structured water for so long. I can't even remember the feeling anymore. But if I did, I know that the first thing that goes is my emotional balance. I will get cranky, and then I will get angry, and I will just start to fall apart. My joints will start to hurt, and I'll be tired and mopey, and it's awful. And so then I started getting at the Lyme with various forms of nutrients. And those nutrients have served to take on the parasites that are in my body. And, I know I get out of the shower every day now. I spray food grade hydrogen peroxide on my skin. And if the spirochetes from Lyme are present, then I feel like a biting sensation all over. And if they're not, I don't. And if they're not, I don't do much about it. But if they are, I just amp up the herbs and the nutrients. And so 52 years old, I've got the best health I've had since I was 30. And, it's all tied together.
Yeah, that's amazing. Water, having a device that really structures water is to me is so exciting, because, our blood flow, it depends on our body structuring the liquids within us, and by being able to give it a more of a nidus, like sort of not having to use our energy to structure the water,
Right.
but having it already come in pre-structured. I mean, that's the beauty in people who do get to have fresh spring water, or people who sometimes, like make sun teas and things like that, where the energy of the sun is activating the water, because it's getting those hydrogen and oxygens to line up a little bit differently right along the edge of the flow. That's what creates the structure. And that seems to be elemental in life, and again, that's what's just so exciting about this work. And we can see from your experience, Patrick, that how we can really unlock healing. You've got me very excited about how to use this more.
Yeah, same here. How to use it as a foundation, really, for everything else that we do. I'm super excited.
Yeah, I don't know how we can do anything without handling the hydration piece. I went to Maui in March of 2020, right as COVID was getting going, and I had a really bad, all the way from Boston, I had a really bad case of jet lag. And on the fourth day, I just couldn't get right, and I was drinking my structured water. I mean, it's not perfect in all instances. You drink a glass of structured water and you're better. Like, you have to immerse your life in it and build it. And all the state parks and stuff closed. And there's this place called the Eau Valley, and there's nobody there. So I went in, it was my state park. And so I went upstream, like I love to climb up rocks and go upstream. And I found a pool and you know, I did a little skinny dipping in my state park, in my pool. And I would suggest that you cannot hold a negative mood through that type of moving water. You just can't. And so I've experimented with it in waterfalls, in matcha places, and then in the ocean. Like I love to walk like knee deep in the water and look at all the vortexes of water that are spinning. It's infinite. Just in the space you could touch, water is spinning infinitely fast an infinite amount of times. Just right there. Think about the whole globe being mostly water. It's an enormous energy. So I've experimented with it in all these ways, and I've come to a simple conclusion. I can't make my life work if I don't take care of my hydration.
Right.
Right.
Wow.
I have to say, so many of our patients suffer from hydration issues. You know, I think it has to do with hormonal issues. And I know that the hormones are transported in water. It has to do with issues in the pituitary, which is the master hormone regulator in our brain. Well, we have a whole lymphatic system in our brain. That depends on water. And a lot of our patients are constantly urinating out because of those hormonal issues. And so to rehydrate them, I think is going to be key, to rehydrate them in this new way. I mean, yes, I always suggested for them to drink water and to add minerals and electrolytes. And I think that's still important, but the structured water piece takes it to a new level for hydration, I believe.
Yeah, and giving people energy. I mean, that
Yeah.
is the thing, is energy that they can have their body decide to use. One of the issues is that when people are significantly ill, is that when you add things that increase energy, you sometimes make people sicker. But if this is a subtle enough field, that it should really be helpful. And one thing that I think that's important is, you know, when you talk about your device, is that, you know, over the years, I think what kept me away from the structured water usage that much was that most of it was using vortexes and things that just seemed like a lot of work. Now, I don't mean, you know, just a lot of energy production all the time to keep going. And so can you describe what's different about how, but the device that your Aqua Energizer?
Sure. So, you know, one of the things I would say here is I'm not a scientist, right? I've said that before. And so I can replay what I've heard, but that doesn't necessarily imply mastery or understanding of it, right? So I will share with you that I believe our water scientist, Joseph Johnson, is the most intelligent water scientist on the planet. And I've asked him this question because to me, it just looks like, you know, you take another device from another company, it looks like a vortexing thing, and our device looks like a vortexing thing. And I'm like, well, if our water spins it, our device spins it, and their device spins it, why is ours any different? And he sat me down one day and said, look, the other inventors looked into nature, they saw a vortex, and they said, vortex is how nature cleans water. I'm going to make a device that forces water to vortex. And that's good. But the reason our device is so much more powerful in getting different results than have ever been seen before is because he looked at the charge and the frequency that invite a vortex to form. And he created from there. So the best I can say is like he thinks differently and he's coming from a different place than other people. And that the precision of the mathematics and the shapes are of the utmost importance. One of the things that we did early on is he would build devices in California, ship them to me in Texas. I would take them out, look at them, put them back in a box and ship them to him in California because we wanted to know what would happen. And in that process, he has a machine for testing the effectiveness of the components when they came together. And not from the shipping piece, but just from doing all the testing that he did, he discovered that there's an alchemy in putting the units together. And so he can take the part, he's the inventor, he made the recipe. He can take the parts, put them together and test the device and it can be dead. And he has to take it apart. It didn't take. It didn't become alive. And so he's even tested just putting his oscilloscope on the outside of a device with no water moving through it. So we're talking about copper, crystals, and ormus. And the ormus, we're talking about seawater, ash, and morning dew. This is not complicated stuff. Like, here, the world can have our recipe. Like, we're not trying to hide it from anybody. Like, now y'all know, if you want to go make your own, good luck. You know the ingredients. Like, go to the store and get them and make your device. But they need to come together in a way that makes the device work. So Joseph is a super powerful thinker, and he sees things that other people don't see. And I can tell you that one of his dreams that he's working on right now is he wants to make a device that will let every person be able to measure that water is structured in their own home. So we don't have to wait. And that's where, we're so thankful for the Hydration Foundation and for Gina's work, because Gina's been able to have an offshoot, the HIFO lab, that tests structured water devices. And the first one we made, we sent to her and said, does it work? And Gina came back and said,
yes. In fact, I'm here with my travel device. This is my little portable that I pour tap water in and my water bottle underneath, or I take it to the airport, or when I know I'm going to be away from my home. I think for the larger context that we'd like to set for your whole audience is recognizing that water is a living essence and it's communicating all the time. And there are ways in which you can actually structure water, starting with your life. For example, putting a little fresh like sea salt in your water bottle, that will begin the process of charging water. It will help shape it. You can go to using foods, for example. They're a very powerful and important part of this. And then there's the whole opportunity of using movement and helping yourself move, which is going to generate electricity in your body, and the fascial structure will start firing, and which will then ignite change of the water inside of your body. So we want to be partnering with every possible way to get water in these forms to be able to do the work that's been the missing link in hydration. And understanding that what Patrick is offering is something that has to do with using our taps and our water sources that are coming in when we can't get to these other more natural things. And also, I know that this is very important to me as the Hydration Foundation. We want to support as many companies who are trying to do good devices as we can, because we want this stuff, everybody needs a version somewhere. And we really are trying to help. I mean, our goals here are to recover water in our generation, and then the health will flourish. The soils will flourish. The glyphosate will be eaten up by the microbes, which are getting rehydrated. We have a very powerful understanding of the principles of water to accelerate, ignite all living things, all of us, not just us humans. So there's ways to, I also want to just say, if you go to my website, there's lots of recipes there to just help you get started. And those are important to include in your life, as well as recovery devices that we can use to get water into soils and water into our bathtubs and water into our homes. So all of those things are, my favorite is chia pudding. I love mixing chia seeds with some coconut milk or nut milk and creating a kind of pudding. It's a great recipe if you don't want to pee at night, or have an elderly person who's struggling with that. So.
Gina, there's a really important thing I've heard you speak about recently, and I'd love for you to address it here with our audience today, and that's about why it is that the water that we just get out of the tap right now is not structured water.
Yeah, it's so simple. Again, if you think of that spectrum, unfortunately, the way we pipe water through pressurized pipes, it's too small. Water doesn't have enough room to do the serpentine and the spinning. And also then we've chemically washed it. And those two things disorganize the water molecule enough that it has trouble getting back to its organized state. And that's how we want to help it. That's the missing piece of information that we needed.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah. organization, information. I mean, this is really it. And I think it's just so important that people realize that it is, the fresh fruits, vegetables, and movement, and sunlight. I mean, people are always worried about sunlight because their effect on their eyes, and it's going to help turn on the pineal gland and this and that. But it is just the ultimate source of energy for all of us, and it energizes our water.
Mhm.
I so appreciate you bringing this back, that this is a whole story.
And it's a whole story that involves our feet on the ground, our eyes to the sky, our face to the sun, to collaborate with all the plants that are dying to be ingested by us, who love us, who want to help us. And all of that is a living system information grid that we're severed from in our modern lives. And as we return to those practices, again, if I can only land for those of you who are listening, how much more you are made of water than you ever guessed. Every single one of your cells is a little think of it as a miniature Ziploc bag that's full of jelly. It's zipped up and it's laying next to the next little Ziploc bag. That's called your tissue. It could be, liver tissue, it could be brain tissue, it could be your eye socket tissue, but all of it is made of water. And if I can help you understand that, then you get the role of hydration in your life. And it isn't guzzling more water. It's using all of nature strategies, sunlight, grounding, motion, movement, high nutrition, that then elicits this coordination of life within us and allows us to supersede the stresses that we are constantly assaulted with. So yeah, that's a lot. But please know how much you're water.
I think adding the word immersion here kind of helps bring an even deeper understanding, right? It's not like you get one of our devices, you drink a certain number of glasses a day, and you're this magical being now. It's like you immerse your life in harmonized energies. So when people talk about spectrums of structured water, I would actually contend that all water is structured. The question is it structured toward chaos or structured toward harmony? Like, what is the structure? And so, one of the things that shocked me, I was, more into my devices 5, 6, 7 years ago. I thought, well, you got to have my device to make this all work. And somebody came up to me and was like, no, you can do it all on fruit. And I was like, no, you can't. And then I did a 28-day fruit cleanse. And what I found on my fruit cleanse was I only needed about 1/3 to 1/2 of the water that I'm used to drinking every day. And after 4 weeks of that, of not drinking as much, I was like, oh, this is what he's talking about. I'm getting my structured water from the fruit. And so now I crave water-rich foods. Like if I can get a cucumber, an apple, a melon, those are like really, really great choices. And sometimes, no matter how well I'm taking care of myself, there's a little stress, I'm on the road too long, something's going on. Well, that's when there's pink sea salt to add to the water. That's when there's cutting a lemon or a lime to add to the water, or whatever you want to put in there, some raspberries or, these type of things. So if we can think in terms of immersion, it's like we're immersed in a toxic soup right now with EMF pollution, with our computers, with our phones, with the wires, with everything that's in our air. I mean, it's just a crazy world we're living in right now. So if we want to harmonize, we got to go all in on harmony. So every place you can harmonize, putting something on your phone that helps with it, unplugging your TV, turning your Wi-Fi off at night, eating more melons, drinking more structured water. It's all a piece. And when you balance your stress and move your body and put those water-rich things and structured water all in your body, it comes together and it's enough to balance out what we're being bombarded with. So immersion, I just love immersion.
Yeah, no, that's such an important piece, because so often we make the mistake of thinking, in that typical linear engineering type mode, that A caused B, and if all I have to do is remove A and I'm going to be better. And that's not how it works. We get back to health by a conglomeration of support that allows the system to return to health, not a magic bullet. The magic bullet is needed sometimes to remove the trigger, but healing is feeding. And, and feeding is energy. And this is beautiful. And the water piece is so, so important, because I can't, as Nafisa was saying, dehydration, cellular dehydration is such a core component. And you can drink all the bottled water you want, and it doesn't, and we can see from our patients, we always laugh. I mean, all of our patients walk in with water bottles, and I think it's a really a statement about how ineffective it is at hydration.
Yeah, Eric, one of my early insights that not all water was created equal was when I was drinking green tea as I was building this business. I had a wood stove in my home in Massachusetts, and I would just put a pot out there. And on the days where I drank green tea, I noticed that the inside of my cheeks would dry out. It's like, what's going on there? And that's when I realized that the inside of my cheeks were one of the indicators about whether I was hydrated or not. In fact, a very good one I found. And I started noticing the green tea. Then I noticed if I drink RO water, my cheeks dry out.
The reverse osmosis, yes.
Right? Like, so reverse osmosis is all about purity. And that's what everybody's been educated to want. And it's the #1 solution around the world. And then it's dehydrating us.
It goes back to the same engineering model of the toxins are bad. Removing the toxins is good, but that is not the way to get back to health. It's just a small step. Stop taking in a lot of toxic stuff.
Right.
But
It's like, and to put it really simply, it's like sometimes you need to remove certain things for our patients. We need to remove the toxins, we need to remove the infections, we need to remove inflammation, but then we need to add other things back in, and appropriate hydration is one of those things.
it's the
foundation. Yeah, I'm wondering if we can take some questions.
That's exactly.
I only have about 10 minutes left that I can, this machine is going to run out. So I hope we can get some in, and if there's more questions afterwards, I'm willing to respond, and we'll just connect through Dr. Eric. So great.
Yeah,
Well, what do we got now?
If there are any questions, please put them in the Q&A so we get to them. Please don't put them in the chat. They might get lost there. So we have Julie who says, hello, I'm chronically dehydrated no matter how much water I drink. I also have toxins in my body that have been identified as coming from water. I have been advised by my doctors that I work with to drink distilled water to remove all toxins. What do you think about drinking structured distilled water?
Gina, you want to start?
Yeah, just very quickly, of course, water is a vector for contaminants, and that's likely what you're drinking. So that is why someone would recommend distilled water. The problem with distilled water is water needs material in it to talk to create a conversation, an electrical conversation. So when you distill water, you need to put minerals back into it. It's just as simple as that. Put minerals back in, and good luck. This is not medical advising. This is like, find your capacity to heal yourself. Collect information. Try things, trust that your body wants what you need, and it will love the minerals if that's what it needs.
So along those lines, from the experimentation front, I mean, I just think about if I reduce Patrick to 2 buckets, we'd have a bucket of water and a bucket of minerals. That's what we got. And so if I take water that's used to carrying minerals and I put it in my body and it doesn't have any, it's going to take minerals. Right? So if it doesn't have them to give, it's going to take. So distilled water is empty water, and it's going to pull. So if you're on a cleanse, you're trying to detox, drink distilled water for a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, whatever is right for you. Work that out with your doctor. But on a long-term basis, I would not drink distilled water because it would be constantly pulling things out of my body, and I don't want that.
And so I just want to jump in here. For appropriate detoxification to take place, we need mineralization. Without appropriate mineral status, we're just going to keep recirculating the toxins that we pull out of our cells, out of our tissues. And so if we're drinking water that's not mineralized appropriately, we're just going to recirculate toxins. So there's very specific ways to detoxify. It's very, very important that it's highly personalized, and very specific. So you want to be careful when you're detoxifying. Always keep mineralization going.
Perfect. Bobby shared that for years I drank reverse osmosis water. Recently bought a portable structured water unit, and I noticed the difference already after only a couple of weeks.
That's exciting, and it's something that I've just started doing as well, because
Right.
I happened to move into a new house that someone had put in a reverse osmosis unit, and at first I was very excited about it until I realized that exactly the problem is that I was, removing the very minerals that I need. I mean, I was quickly to add them back in, but now I see how important that, the deadness of the flow through long, narrow pipes. I mean, that is such a big issue, the way we've lost that mountain stream vortex and deep underground vortex that's created. We really need to go back to nature. It's our only way forward.
Yes, it is.
All right, we have a question here from Gary. Do you know what the difference might be in the health benefits between structured water and hydrogen water? I know this question has come-
I'll jump in. Really, I have a very strong opinion. It's an opinion, so just alert to that. Hydrogen, of course, water's H2O, right? So and plus could be more bonding going on there, which gets us to the structuring part. But hydrogen is I believe we should be using it therapeutically and not to hydrate ourselves. It is not water, it's hydrogen. We need water to hydrate ourselves. We need structured water that's in the right hydrogen bond organizing. Using hydrogen to hydrate is not, I don't think it's what nature intended. Using hydrogen to help you get to a state of better hydration and health, where then you can, using it therapeutically. I think there's a lot of work on that. I don't know it well enough, but I do know my side of this tracks well enough to say, don't hydrate with hydrogen water. That's not water.
Yeah, I second that opinion. Hydrogen water is excellent. Hydrogen gas is excellent. As again, these are medicines. They're not foods.
Yes. Yeah.
So what
Do
exactly?
we have another? I have time for one more question, I think. Yeah. Go ahead, Darcy.
What exactly destructures water?
Well, contaminants, frequencies, all the things that we're practicing.
Avoid.
So, and we're not going to avoid them. There is something I would like to say about, in the modern industrial sterilized culture that we live in, we are dehydrated. There's just no way around that. You come in a dehydrated state. I think Zach Bush is the one who said 100% of my patients that walk in my clinic, I've tested, they're dehydrated. So you start there and know, okay, now I understand I've got these issues, and that the complex world that we live in right now, with its additional stresses that then create the chemicals, cortisol, whatever, that I have action I can take, and it's playful, beautiful, happy action. It isn't another health task I have to cope with. This is, you get to bathe, you get to bounce around, you get to ingest beautiful foods, fresh foods. They're going to drip down your chin. That little peach is going to bring you you're going to see flowers, the vibrating. You're going to get to the state where you're like, hi, flowers. This is what we're headed towards when we get that state of hydration. So I just really want everyone to know the power of hydrate. We are water beings. We're water beings that walk on land, but we have the same plasma tissue structure as a jellyfish. And if we start from there and realize we want to create that buoyancy in our life, we're going to, a lot of other niggling problems about EMFs and, too much toxins in the environment, they will begin to diminish, and we don't have to live in this protected stance. We will be able to open and receive how much more life is out there for us.
What a beautiful gift.
Thank you.
Right? Thank you. Thank you so much. So there's obviously a lot of questions and we will answer them all. So don't worry. I just want to tell that to our audience. And yeah, we'll probably.
Thank you. Yeah, I appreciate the opportunity to share what I know, and anyone is welcome to come to the Hydration Foundation .org website. I get to thank Patrick again for all his help in helping us get up and running as a young foundation, find our way into the world and share more and more information. And we have a Instagram Hydration Daily that we're putting more information on every day. And you can write me, Gina at hydrationfoundation.org. I literally look at my, because why? Because we gotta get this movement going, right? All your questions count right now.
Oh, great.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. And I think people, how can people get in touch with you, Patrick?
Through thewellnessenterprise.com. And that's
We've been
wellness.
dropping the link in. People have been asking, so folks look in the chat as well.
Perfect.
Right.
Wonderful. I just want to thank you all. I mean, again, I can't tell you how much, I just love learning and getting new information and just new depth to things I think I know, and it just keeps growing. So, and thank you both for really your dedication. It's just so special.
Yes, thank you for helping change the planet and people's health. Thank you for being on the webinar with us today. I
A
look
joy.
forward to much more.
Okay.
Yes.
Pleasure.
Blessings. Water bless us all.
Yes.
Bye.
Bye.